and welcome back to Brain AI podcast. I'm your host Lenka. This is the show for digital agencies and innovative brands focused on predictable growth. We deliver AI solutions and systems required to streamline client acquisition and automate service delivery, ensuring you are maximizing your capacity to scale. Today, I'm joined by Sam McFarlane, founder of Sam Says, a social media and content marketing business she's been running for 14 years. Sam works with small businesses and professional service providers, offering a full done-for-you service across Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. From coaches to accountants to industry association, she helps her clients stay visible and consistent online without them having to lift a finger. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Lenka, and thanks for the warm welcome. What a great summary.
You've been doing this for many years, to be exact, 14. What made you start and what were those early days like?
So what made me start was, I guess, a personal need. So I'd been working in a marketing role for about 8 years, I think. And I was part-time at that time and had 2 children. And my son, who was 4 at the time, was going to be starting school the following year. And I just didn't know how I was going to manage school hours and school holidays. And I really wanted to be available for school drop-off and pick up and all that sort of stuff. So I started to explore other marketing roles, and at the time they all needed experience in social media. And I thought, I wonder what that is. And at the time it was really just Facebook, and I'd been using Facebook from a personal perspective, but not from a business. So I thought I better go and learn what it is for businesses. And then I learned more about that. And based on that learning, I thought that there must be a need for a done-for-you service provider for a small business owner. And at the time I was thinking of, bricks and mortar stores and things like that, just, at the local high street, that they might need someone to help them with their marketing. And that's sort of where it all started. And obviously it's grown from there, being across different social media platforms, like you mentioned, Instagram and LinkedIn as well. So yeah, that's where it all started, and that's where it is today.
As you said, it started with Facebook, eventually evolved across others. How have you kept up as new platforms came along? How was it? How was the journey?
It's, I guess, one of those journeys that I've had to remind myself that I'm a lifelong learner because with social media, there are always new things happening, and it does certainly keep me on my toes. And at times over those years, I did look at different platforms like Pinterest and Twitter, which is now X. I do a little bit in the way of TikTok, but not a huge amount. So I guess it was just exploring the different platforms and then working out what might my clients need. And because I work with mostly service-based professional businesses, a lot of the time I've found that they're on a mix of Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. So I've been able to sort of keep it in that realm, which has been good. But yeah, I guess to answer the question, it's all about just keeping up to date with all the different changes. And I subscribe to lots of newsletters and I listen to lots of podcasts and I do lots of courses over the time, depending on what I might feel like I'm lacking in.
Yeah, it never ends, does it? Literally every week there's something new.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Meta, I like Facebook. Every single time I log in for my business, it's just oh, hang on, what's that? Something new again.
I know. And it just, I don't know. I think there was one point where it was a few years ago when Threads came out and I was just about to go on holiday and Meta announced or Instagram announced Threads. And I thought, oh my God, I literally can't take on another platform. What is going? But yeah, here we are.
Walk me through a little bit of what a done-for-you service actually looks like for one of your clients.
So I guess it starts initially with a questionnaire to go through who their target audience is, what they want to be known for, things that they've seen online that they like, things that they don't like. Yeah, so getting a bit of a picture about their ultimate goals for their social media. And then once I learn a little bit about that, then I can work out what the strategy might be for that particular business. And then from there, I will write the content for them. I usually prepare all the content. I create graphics or they'll send me videos that I can edit for them. and then I send that through to them. So it's a complete plan each month. And then basically their role is to review that content and make sure that it aligns with their business and their brand. And as long as they're happy with that, then they give me the go ahead to go and schedule that in for them. So I sort of see it as that fully done for you. I know that they do have to approve it, because I certainly wouldn't want to be publishing anything on their platforms that they didn't align with or agree with.
Yeah.
But it's a minimal amount of effort that they need to put in. And some clients like to have monthly meetings and give me a rundown of what's happening, and that's great. I can incorporate that into the content. And other clients are just much more hands-off and let me go away and put together the plan, and then they're just happy to approve it from there. So it's sort of just, I try and fit in with a service offering that is going to help them where they're at.
Amazing. That's so good. Do you see any specific trends or like type of creatives that work for one vertical and doesn't necessarily work for another?
Yeah, it's hard to say, because I think across the 3 platforms that I'm focused on, it's really, they all like video content, and video content is performing well across all those platforms. So I guess I'd have to say that at this point in time, it seems that the platforms that I'm working across, if there's some video in there, that potentially people might have a longer attention span on a platform like LinkedIn, maybe not. So does that mean that your video can be slightly longer on LinkedIn versus Instagram, where there's so much content that's going out there? It's quite a noisy platform that you really have to get straight in with the hook and keep people watching, and then, keep it short at, as short as it possibly can be. So I'm just trying to think, would there be, I guess every platform has its, different capabilities. So for example, on LinkedIn, you've got quite a lot of capability where you can have obviously video content, you can have polls, you can do newsletters, you can have blog articles as well. And I think a mix of all of those content types work across LinkedIn really quite well. So you can sort of tap into different audiences via that range of different mix of content. Whereas with Instagram, you've got, and I guess Facebook to a certain degree, you've got stories, you've got reels, which is your video content, and then you've got in the feed content. But within Instagram stories, you can have polls. So that's one way that you can bring in that interactive feature. But I think the best thing that I found is to really do a bit of experimenting as to and each brand will have a different sort of target audience essentially, and they might have a different pattern on the different social media platforms. So I'm not sure if I don't think I answered your question, because I think I said it depends. But I think, working through a different range of content and testing that to see what the audience resonates with. It was interesting. I found that a lot of people's behavior on Instagram is to watch stories and engage with other businesses' stories and not spend as much time in the feed. So I think, if that's your audience, then obviously you've got to be having that range of different story content so you can keep them engaged and take them along the journey with you. My behavior on Instagram is just scrolling through the feed. So, and then other people like a mix of stories and in the feed content. So I guess it's just trying to work out, what your audience likes. And a lot of the time, as you would know, that's through a bit of testing.
I couldn't agree more. Even if you think you nailed this for one client, actually you may nailed it. Other client, even if they're same vertical, even if they have same audience, it doesn't necessarily mean that the same thing will work for them. I'm a big advocate of testing, and that's what we do eventually, right? In digital, we just always need to keep testing, because not just new tools and features, but also behavior is changing. Interested in your thoughts on, I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with another founder, and we touched base on that images, like still images, as back to the feeds. Do you reckon we just had so much video with TikTok blooming like a couple of years ago that we're getting a little bit more, I wouldn't say tired, but like seeing a still image is refreshing in a sense?
I think it's so hard to know, but I guess when you are seeing a lot of the same sort of type of video content in your feed constantly, and then all of a sudden you see something new, which is a still image, that could be considered that you might sort of spend a little bit more time on that to look a little bit further, because it is a bit more unusual now versus, and you see the same sort of trends that people are following with video, and you just, scroll, scroll, scroll. But yes, a static image could potentially stand out more now, which is bizarre to think, because at the start when video was coming in, it was all about the movement that was grabbing people's attention. But yeah, I think maybe you're right in that it's that uniqueness about a still image now. And I think also a still image, like an image that isn't necessarily a stock image, which I think AI can help a lot with now, because if you feed AI some of your images that you have, it can make some changes so it might stand out a little bit more and look a little bit different. So potentially, yeah, that the image is the static image. Go back to the static image. Yeah, I mean, I think from my behavior when I'm scrolling now, I probably do spend a bit more time looking at that image versus, that same video style that you might
Yeah.
have seen.
I personally definitely spend more time reading carousels. So like going through one by one and reading story this way is just probably just a bit refreshing. What's the biggest thing holding small businesses owners back for showing up consistently on social media? What do you think?
I think there's a lot of things, but I think one of the big things is potentially the curse of knowledge. So sometimes they think, why would I say that when 10 other people in my industry have already said that? Well, that might be the case. Maybe other people are saying a similar thing in your industry, but your audience hasn't heard it from you. And sometimes the uniqueness in the way that you might explain it might be the thing that makes the penny drop for that individual, and then think, oh yeah, like they may have heard the message a few times before or something similar, but maybe the way that you've explained it really resonated with that individual. And then that might take them to that next step to take that action. So I think that's probably one of the main things. They just don't know what to say because they're seeing so many other people talking about similar things. And then the next thing, and that also holds people back, is I guess just trying to come up with fresh content and keep feeding that beast that the content machine seems to be. I think, they might have some content that does well and they might, get on a bit of a roll. I sort of liken it a little bit to a gym membership. So you sign up for a gym membership, you go, in the first month, you might go, every a few times a week, right? And you think, yes, this is great. Like I'm gaining momentum. And then maybe you get sick or something happens and then you drop back and then you're not going as much and then you're feeling guilty, but you're still paying the money, but you're not going, but it's that guilt. And I think that a lot of the clients that I work with have that guilt that, oh, I know I need to be posting something, but I don't have time or I don't know what to say, or it's just one of those
Yeah.
things, I think.
Which brings me to my next question. Everyone says just use ChatGPT. What people get wrong about that?
I think what people get wrong is they might just say, start with a really basic prompt. And I think that they're not prompting correctly. So if you think, garbage in, garbage out, that's exactly what's happening. So I think it's so important. Yes, I think that AI can do some great things, and I'm certainly using it definitely for research and different ideas and all that sort of stuff. But I think that that people are just going in there and saying, write me 10 captions for my business as an accountant. And then, you're going to get some random stuff because it's not tailored to who your audience is. It's not tailored to the services that you offer. And yeah, it's just going to be very basic in what it delivers back to you. And then that person might say, oh, I've used AI and it's rubbish because it didn't give me, it didn't tell me anything. It was just robotic. But if you went in there and you said, okay, I want you to act as an expert social media strategist, and I want you to create, maybe to start with, I want you to create one post for my business, which is an accounting firm that works specifically with allied health practitioners, helping them with their BAS and their annual tax returns, or something like that. You actually give it very specific information, and then you sort of say, and ask me any questions, that you might have along the way. Then you're probably going to get a much better response from something that's a little bit more tailored. than something that's a bit generic. So I think that's probably where a lot of people are going wrong with it.
Yeah, I think it will be learning curve for us as a humans. It's not new if you think about it. Like Facebook or Google, embraced AI many, many years ago, but I think now it's just more accessible for people. So everyone's trying to like work things out,
Hmm.
and it is a lot of like and miss.
Hmm.
I believe that yes, exactly. Garbage in, garbage out. The prompting is super important and it needs a skill. Like it's not something that you need to practice, you need to learn, you need to try. But even with perfect prompt, I think we're forgetting that if someone else would write exactly the same prompt, the answer would be identical, right? So how you can at least like add a little bit of personality or like your authenticity into the post. It could be just like the way how you write, it could be just emoji on the end or just
Hmm.
something that is a little bit more personal. I think we're losing a lot of human to human interactions across social predominantly because um, people just think it's easier, but on the long
Mm.
run it won't work.
Mm. And that's why they need experts like you to help them, to know exactly what to put in there and to set up those systems for them so they can get that, much better level or higher quality content.
Yeah, 100%. We're facing now a lot of pressure on LinkedIn because LinkedIn suddenly became a platform that everyone just using everything AI and everything is just fully automated, responses under the post and engagements. They all as the AI SDRs, they know real people. And I think people are just getting a little bit annoyed in a sense with that. Maybe for basic user, you won't pick it up, but if you work in an industry and you work across digital more in a, like you will notice the pattern across those posts and engagement and comments. So yeah, as I said, it's definitely learning for all of us to be on this journey and utilize it in a good way. And just don't forget that, what makes us unique is us, is our soul, our heart, something that AI will never have.
And I think that's also like a really good point because people will still buy from, people still want to buy from people. And so they can
Yeah.
relate to that story that you tell, that humanness about the content, I think will really stand out a lot more now that more and more people are leaning into AI a bit more for their content.
What was the hardest lesson you learned while you were running your business over the years? Something you could share with us?
The hardest lesson, I think probably that I can't do it all and I can't help everyone. I think that's probably the hardest lesson when I find that I I start to work with someone or I have a conversation with someone and I really want to help them, but maybe they need help with SEO or, something that I don't do, staying in your lane and saying, well, actually, SEO isn't a service that I offer, but, I have these great partnerships with other providers that I can certainly introduce you to. Because I think at one point in my business, I was trying to do, everything for everyone and it's exhausting, but also you're not going to do a good job of it because if you're not an expert, then why would you try and help someone in that area? So I think that was probably a lesson that I had to learn pretty early on. But yeah, that's probably the main one. And then also, I guess around you can't help everyone. So working out, that niche of that type of service provider that I work with. So, I will target businesses that are more established. So they've probably been in business for, 3 to 5 years as a minimum rather than someone that's a startup because most of the time, the business that has been around for a little bit longer might have already tried different things. And so they might already know that, this works or this doesn't work for them. Whereas a startup is sort of just trying to test lots of different things and they won't necessarily have an understanding of whether or not that's going to be the right thing for their business. So yeah, I think they're probably the main things that I've learned along the way.
Yeah, I'm hearing this kind of on repeat. So it must be a true. Just learn to say no.
Hmm.
Make sure that you define your client base and like a client profile, which is very hard
Hmm.
at the beginning because you're chasing revenue and you want to survive, you want to provide for your family. So it's a hard ball. It's
I
a
think that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah. Where are we heading? What do we see things heading to across your clients, but in general with the AI evolving every week?
I think we're in a really interesting space at the moment because I think that as good as AI is now, it's still it's getting better and better every day. So I think that there's going to be more and more capability of AI, which can be a little bit scary because it's unknown where it's going to end up. But at the same time, I think that there is that element which you quite rightly said about bringing that humanness into particularly your content with marketing, and how you can make sure that you bring that in with using AI. So it's hard to say, but I do think that we are, just at the tip of that iceberg with what it can actually do. And people like you would have a much better understanding of what is available in that space. Like, I'm still learning a lot of it. So I think it's going to be very interesting where it goes, even in the 3, 6, 9, 12 months, if we sort of think about how far it's come already. And I know that, even though more and more people have started using it and it's more and more out there in the mainstream, I know that you sort of mentioned it had been around for quite a while, but yet more and more people are using it now. So all of a sudden we think, oh my gosh, AI is here, whereas it's been here for, quite a while already. So I think it'll be interesting to see what does happen. I'm not really sure what that means for business owners, but I think that it essentially is only going to make life a lot easier for a lot of people in their roles, particularly for business owners.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's evolving super quickly. It's ridiculous on the pace. I'm in a space and it's a learning curve. It never stops. Literally every day something new out there. I'm hoping that we moved away from scary headlines like I will take all of our jobs away. People are starting to embrace it and believe it's there to help and scale. And I think the biggest excitement around is actually for small players. It supports small businesses that couldn't necessarily afford professional agencies in the past to produce content or to do this because it was just unaffordable for them. The new doors are opening, and people like you and me will be able to support them on a larger scale with smaller retainer potentially, because it's just so much will be automated and quicker. And that's the exciting part, and that what I'm really, really keen to jump into. That would be one of the things that, to watch out for. I think is exciting.
I think that's so true. And I think that, you've just really, rather than burying your head in the sand and, thinking that it's the end of the world and all our jobs are going to go to AI, is, trying to learn as much as you can, and trying to embrace it in that way to learn how to use it for good. Certainly, when I'm trying to, I guess, talk to my children about what they might do when they grow up, it's, I don't know what the jobs are going to be when they are out in the workforce, which is only in the next sort of 5 years. But I think being able to utilize AI and learning how to use it properly will definitely be a skill that is required. So that's the really important thing to be looking at the moment, I think.
Yeah, true. Well, thank you so much, Sam. That was amazing. Last thing before I let you go, if someone would like to get in touch with you or learn more about Sam Says, what would be the best way?
Thanks, Lenka. Yeah, so if they go over to my website, samsays.com.au, or you can look me up on LinkedIn. I'm under Sam McFarlane, or any Facebook or Instagram at Sam Says Social.
Amazing. Thank you. All these links will be below in the description. Thank you so much to all our listeners to jumping in. We'll be back soon with another interesting topic. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Lenka.